I am glad that you joined us here this afternoon. And one of the things that Nick and I have been talking about the last little while is getting together and doing a program together, because one of the things that I think promotes the idea that we're both from different churches and different theological backgrounds and things like that, and yet we get along great and we just love each other and we help each other out and things like that. And I think it just shows the community that it's not about church buildings or about necessarily theological positions. And I like that, because for so long I was trapped by that. I always felt that this was it, and I stayed within those boundaries. And I know my own life has grown over the years just by understanding that that's just not Jesus thinking. That's not even, New Testament thinking, because the times we read in the New Testament, there is a vast range of different opinions and thoughts and things going on, and yet Jesus mixed in the middle of them, just like they were his friends and people that he was in relationship with. And so I think this is a powerful testimony. Today it's an awesome to have Nick with me here. Nick is not only a close friend, but I've tackled something that he's a little bit more advanced in than I am, and
I don't know about
but
that.
it's been fun because we're tackling Greek together. One of our desires is to not only read the New Testament Greek, but be able to translate and preach from it and be fluent in that. And so I've embarked on a course, you're in a course, and it's been great to compare notes, and sometimes it's been great I am just stuck, because one thing I'll admit, I've never been a good student. Learning has always been has been an uphill battle for me, and for years I haven't stretched my mind. For years I've just been comfortable in the routine that I've created myself to be. And I think you and I both can agree that sometimes in this routine there is no satisfaction. It just seems to be the same old and
mundane.
Yeah, and I started thinking about, I did take Greek years ago, and I've been away from it for so long, and I thought it'd be nice to put myself into that student mode where, I challenge my brain and I start challenging and learning things. And so I remember discussing with my wife, and she said, "Are you sure you want to do that?" and so I talked about it, and I took the plunge. And I think one of the things that this has been great for me is, it's easy to start something, but when there's no accountability and there's no someone going to ask you about it or dialogue with you, it's easy to go sideline. And so that's one of the things I've appreciated, because when I've been stuck with a phrase or translating a sentence and I don't why it's not making sense, because I know it's supposed to make sense, and how we can get together and talk about it, and that's great. And it's been an honor. I can say from my heart, it's been an honor having you a part of my life. I thank God for you, Nick, and I thank God that we connected and that we're on the same page and pushing through stuff and navigating our congregations through unprecedented things. Like, we've never had situations like this happen before, and so often when times like that happen, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of wondering, there's a lot of why is this going on, why is that, and we've had to adapt to things that we've never had to adapt before, and sometimes I think we can look at that as a negative thing. But I'm starting to see positive aspects. Am I tired of this corona thing? Absolutely. I'm like done.
Yeah.
Okay, already. It's let's move on. And yet in the midst of it, we're under restrictions and we're limited to what we can do. And so whether we like it or not, we have to adapt. We're gonna have to adapt, and we have to adapt. And I know sometimes even people that come to our churches, they're asking when, and they want this to happen again. And it's hard sometimes to answer that, because our hands are tied, and we don't want them to be tied. And sometimes I think we even see where other businesses are opening up and allowing a lot more room, but when it comes to churches, it seems to be still cards very close to the table, and sometimes a struggle if that's fair or not. And we can talk about that till the cows come home, and everybody has a different opinion. But I think the whole picture is we have to learn to be able to make do with what we have. And I think even social media, what we're doing here today, I mean, you guys are online, we're online, and the positive note of that thing is it's created an open opportunity. It's not, and someone says this, why the church is closed. I don't see the churches closed. We've had to restructure.
Exactly. Yep.
We've had to rethink. We've had to adapt.
Yes.
And so I don't like the idea that churches are closed. They're not closed. Churches have had to adapt and do differently. And the positive thing, and you can make comments about that too, because the positive thing is it has a far-reaching audience than just people coming to our buildings each morning, once a week, twice a week.
Oh, yeah. I think it's really opened up the importance of what it means to be a community and a family. Like, I looked at it as I moved here, didn't know anybody. I'm thankful for you because, well, let's be honest, we're going to go back first because with Greek,
Yes.
I'm farther ahead because I've only been out of the game for a little bit.
That's right. Yeah.
And so for his defense, he's been at it a lot longer than I have. But he's like, if there's no accountability,
Yeah.
then it's easy to let it slide. And
Yeah.
the coronavirus thing actually has, I wonder, I was thinking this the other day, I wondered if the world hadn't shut down, if we were still mundane, everyday routine, would I have ever gotten back into it? Would I have been passionate again? Maybe it would have got there. I don't know.
I don't know, because I think sometimes circumstances
But
stir
yeah, it
things up.
stirred it up, and I'm like, well, I can't go visit
Right,
others.
yeah.
I can't do this. I can't have that. And you're kind of like, well, now what do I do? Well, you know what? It's time to maybe take some time
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And reaching out with you, and it's been fun.
It has.
And
It
it's
has
built,
been, absolutely.
It's built another bond to our bond, and
Yes,
it's been
yeah,
cool
I
to see
agree.
it come
Yep.
together.
I agree. Absolutely.
And yeah, the church never did close. It's easy to think that way, but when we think that way, we're thinking building.
Yes.
So the church building closed. For us, it's been a little different because we're in a remodel.
Yes.
So technically, we never had a building open.
Yeah.
So it's just, we got to get our minds switched from, and that's why I think doing this
Yeah.
together is so key, is the buildings may have closed, but the church, the
It's still
body is
very
still
alive.
very alive and open, but now pushed
Yeah.
to the edges where I think it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uncomfortable areas,
Yeah.
and now we're kind of seeing, well, how do we navigate that? Do we
Right.
we swim? And yeah, I get frustrated that you can't have people come in. You get frustrated. You wait all week. Somebody's like, well, what did they say? What did they say? What did they
Yeah,
say?
that's right, yeah.
Well, no, Friday. They send the update Friday, and Friday comes, you get the update, and you're instantly
Yeah.
upset.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, you know what? I can't change the facts.
No.
I can't change what happens, but I can allow God to work in the midst of it and get out of the way.
I think the biggest thing for me, because I like routine, and I like routine, and then I like also change. So that's the paradox. I don't want things disrupted, but then I like disrupting things, because you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
you're almost in a
At your comfortability level, though.
yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Yes, that's true. Comfortability, that's key, because
That's for me.
because we can tell, oh yeah, we like change, but as long as it's within our comfort.
Yeah.
And what's happened the last couple of months is it's forced us to relook at how we do things. It's forced us to, we can't go the regular. It's forced us to open up new avenues maybe that we've never thought of before. It's got us to really begin to question what really matters. And like you say, when we get the Friday reports about nothing's changed, sometimes it can be a downer, but then it's also, okay, we have the facts. Now, what can we do? In spite of what we're told, then, what can we do to capitalize on what we're doing? And so it's forcing an innovative thinking constantly all the time. And I like you too, like, okay, you can't do the regular stuff. And I'm in the office. My staff is at home. They're unemployment and all that dynamics of that stuff. And so studying Greek has opened up the opportunity for me to now invest in my own life. And not only that, but one thing I'm finding, when you stretch yourself beyond your comfort zone, that's where growth happens. Because if you don't push yourself beyond what you're comfortable with, you have the risk of just staying, and stuff that stays around long starts stinking after a while. And so what it's done is it's forced me into that growth aspect where it's pushed back my comfort zone. And I remember talking with you, and this is just being real, when we started, let's get together and let's read and let's compare notes and let's talk about Greek and whatever else, New Testament Greek that is, and I was intimidated because I had been away from it for so long. It almost like I had to relearn to read, and I didn't want to read and sound like a kindergartner, So I was buying time for me to catch up so we could have fun reading. But then I realized I'm putting myself pressure, and I'm not enjoying the process, because I think you would agree with me that in this process, and that can be in any context of us growing, is all of a sudden we've got to learn to appreciate the process, because it's in that process you learn the verbs and the nouns and where they fit in a sentence and how the words are pronounced, and pretty soon it becomes something that you recognize by just seeing it, and it becomes a part of you. And the beautiful thing of it is we're dealing with God's word, and so it's not just words on a page, but it's a reality that comes to life. And we've talked about this before too, that when we get back to the original, for an example, there is no interpretation. There is us dialoguing with unfiltered. And
wrestling.
In wrestling. And you made a point when we've talked before over coffee that what it's done is it's slowed you down. And that's the thing I told my wife, and I've told other people that when I've, said I'm venturing out and I'm getting back into Greek and learning New Testament Greek and that kind of stuff. And one of the benefits is it slowed me down. Because it's easy to read, and I've read it before, but all of a sudden now you stop. And you're pronouncing words, and then you're remembering what those words mean and the context and form they are, and it just takes on a whole different meaning, and that's what's exciting about that aspect. And again, the idea of us being pastors in the church in the city and in different locations with different congregations, this what I think is the New Testament is all about.
Oh, for sure.
This is what the whole New Testament is all about, is relationships, putting things that don't really matter on the shelf and focusing on the things that do matter. And I know you've been an encouragement to me, and you've challenged me, even though you may have not said you challenged me, but I know when I'm going into the Greek, so are you. And so that's a challenge. I know you're not going to skip out. I can't skip out, because when we get together, it's like, well, I haven't touched it for 3 or 4 days now, and I think that's just a healthy thing. I just really think so.
It's one of those things. Wow, and the thing is, you say about being intimidated, but not having it put together. And when you send me in the morning, you'll send me a word, and I'm like, oh. Dang, I don't know this one, but I gotta pretend I do here.
That's right.
And so I'm like, that's
Google
awesome.
Translate.
I'm like, this is awesome, and I'm like, so cool. And then I'm looking it up, and I'm over here trying to find it, and I'm like, oh wow, it's actually way more awesome than what I was pretending to say it was. But I think that's
part of. I think that's the part of realness of just going through life, because we all have to push through insecurities. We all have to push through stuff.
For
sure. We my wife and I talked a few table talks back about being unscripted, and how it's easy. We want the edited version of us. Often we approach scripture, we want the edited version of these characters. We don't want to know their mess, because in it shows a realness. But I say it shows reality, and it gives me hope, and that's all. That's incredible.
I think that's a key piece in understanding what it means to be the church, is being real and understanding, because in our position, we have to stand up in front of people on Sunday morning. Well, just because you look put together doesn't mean you are.
No.
And even with leadership, like on Sunday, prime example, state of Minnesota, chaos, destruction, racism, and all that stuff. And my heart is broken.
You're from Minnesota.
I'm from Minnesota.
That is your home.
It's to see a city getting destroyed and people's livelihoods it breaks your heart. And then to see somebody get murdered, and breaks your heart. And it becomes this huge combobulation of just, it's a mess. The world's a mess. Right, But then on Sunday, you're like, okay, I got to put myself together. No, you know what? It's okay to not be put together. It's okay to just be hurting.
That I'm telling you, Nick, that is important, because sometimes, I don't know if it's culture or it's upbringing or an assumption made that it's not okay to be not okay.
Yeah, and that...
And one of the freeing aspects of being a follower of Jesus is We preach it, we live it, we say it, but when it's not here, it doesn't mean. And he loves us as we are, unedited.
Yeah.
He does the editing. In fact, he already did it when he went to the cross. He edited it. And it's him revealing that new version of who we are as we live life in the frame or in the mold that we're in. Yep. And that's what's exciting about it.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Who did he sit with? He didn't go and he didn't say, follow me to the put together. He didn't say, follow me to the purified. Like, purification in Jerusalem was huge. Like, the Jews, they purified everything. If you weren't pure, you were wicked. But that's who he went to.
Yeah.
So what's that making any different today? I mean, we're not purified outside of him.
No.
And so he comes to you. So if your life's not put together, he's not going, oh, good grief, you didn't put your life together again. No, he's like, follow me.
Yeah.
I've got it.
The idea of follow me, to me says, just come in a line with me. Just come in a line with me. And it's like, it's not, I have to have a certain image to do that. I can come along and align myself with him. And as we align ourselves with him, his character becomes a part of our character. It becomes an overflow. Rather than a put on as appearance, it becomes a reality because we are walking with him. He's a part of our life. And that's what's key. I think that's often what's misconstrued oftentimes in the church walls to the community is that perception.
Well, there's a Jesus jacket. I call it a Jesus jacket. We put on a Jesus jacket Sunday morning. We show up, and I think not being able to meet has allowed it some ways to be, we can hide some more because we're not in person, but we like to put on the Jesus jacket. And then when we leave, we take the Jesus jacket off because we don't want it to, number one, you don't want it to get stained by how you act.
Yeah.
Number two, you don't want it to put on like a stereotype or something. I don't know, something like that.
I get you.
And so it's a jacket that we put on rather than a transformed heart with him, aligning with him. And like the beautiful picture I have, and I want to tattoo it on my arm. Sorry, Mom, if you watch this later. Is it's an arm reaching down. Peter wanted to walk on water. He wanted to be Jesus or like Jesus. Yeah. And let me come out to you. And then he got scared. And I think we all get there.
Yeah, that's right. We do.
Like I can get scared when, are we ever going to be able to be like, I love people, I love contact, and it fuels me. Yeah. But I get scared. I'll be honest. I'll say I get scared that what happens if this disconnect continues? But it hasn't been a disconnect. That's just my own thinking.
I know what you mean. Yeah. Often the perception is here. The battle's here.
You start to sink. And so Peter was out on the water. He started to sink. Well, Jesus reached down and grabbed him. He didn't even have to say anything. I mean, he said help. Jesus reaches down every time and pulls you up and sits with you in the boat.
That's right. He does.
Didn't
Absolutely.
put you back in the boat and send you on your way. He didn't.
Or scold you for why didn't you pay attention? Well, like, what's your problem?
When he said you have little faith, it was just like, it wasn't so much like you didn't believe, but you didn't trust the whole thing. Yeah. You trusted enough to where your fear took over.
I've often learned to take statements like that often were perceived as negative. For instance, you have so little faith. Yeah. Like, what's your problem? You got a little bit of faith, but man alive, I've got more to give. More's available to you.
It's like a growth. It's a growth
exactly.
thing.
It's like you have little faith, but I'm telling you, that doesn't define you because I got this whole package for you. And that's the uniqueness of a relationship. Is it's a package, and as we align ourselves with Jesus, that package opens up, and it's more and more revealed who we are and what's available to us, because His intent is for us to walk in the fullness that He has us.
Oh yeah, and it goes back to slowing down. Like we were talking earlier, the Greeks caused us to slow down in reading, but this whole thing has caused everybody to slow down, whether they like it or not. We've slowed down because if you look at Jesus' teaching, they were always eager. When are we going to go? When are we going to go proclaim this kingdom? When are we going to go and just bulldoze all the negative? When are we just going to run in and do it?
Absolutely.
And He's like, whoa, slow your roll. Like, he slowed you down.
Yeah.
He slowed the disciples down. And I think he's doing that today with us too. Slow down. Think about what it means to be a church. Think about it now that you can't meet.
Yeah.
I think it's been a cycle now. So what does it look like? What does it mean to be a church? Like,
Yeah.
it's slowed everybody down. Like, ask that question. I want everyone to ask themselves that question. What
Yeah.
does it mean? Because right now we're having a good conversation. We're
Yep.
growing. Jesus is smiling down, going, my babies.
Yeah, that's right.
My babies. And my babies who don't always agree on everything theologically. But that doesn't matter, because he's going, okay, you're not right, none of you are ever going to be right in everything. But that's okay, you're my
And yet
children.
sometimes, why do we think we are going to be right on something?
I know.
It's like...
I mean, you're literally not going to be, like, it's the image of the pearly gates, everybody standing in line waiting to get in, right? But you're not going to be like, oh man, like the Baptists aren't going to be going like, well, what are they doing up there? Why do they get to be up in the front? And that stuff's not going to matter. It's going to be my children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're all children,
Yeah,
right, of God.
absolutely.
And
I believe that wholeheartedly.
That's the beauty of it. And so it's Big C Church, and we can
Yes.
dive into that. But there's church, and there's Big C Church, and that's where I think we need to stay.
The whole idea of the Greek word for church is ekklesia, which means gathering, assembly and gathering.
And
It's where people are a part of something that's much bigger than themselves, and it's not confined to brick and mortar. I remember when this first started happening, within 3 or 4 weeks, we were well into this quarantine thing and whatever else, and someone from the community made this statement to my wife, and he just says, you know what, do we need brick and mortar? Is that what defines the church? Well, no. It confines a building, but doesn't confine the church.
No.
And I think more we wrap our mind around this whole ecclesia, when he called this gathering, it also always included a scattering.
Yep. Well, and if you look at the city of Estevan, like, we have scattering and on multiple levels. So like, there's multiple church buildings, there's multiple church places of worship, right? And so there's a scatter right there. We're not separate. We're together. We're an assembly, but we're assembled in different pockets. But that's to the benefit of the kingdom and of Jesus. And then from there we go and scatter some more.
Yeah, that's right.
And I always like to refer to the church building as a gas station.
Yes.
Like, if you're truly doing what Jesus calls you to do and says, go proclaim, go make, go do. Like, your salvation is not dependent on the doing, but that's an aspect of the fact that Jesus is like, if you're aligned with me, if you're my disciple, you go.
Yes.
Like, that's exciting and passionate. And so you go, and then all week you're going and you're going and you're going.
Yeah.
And if you drive a vehicle, you know it goes on empty. And so the church building, the gathering for worship on Sunday, isn't so you can fix me.
Yeah.
It isn't so I can get something fixed in my life. That's what the body's for. That's what the church is for, together as a family. It's to fuel up. You're going to get the free fuel by worshiping God, and you get fueled up, or it's a missionary outpost.
Yeah.
And you come in, you gather as a family, you rejoice in the fact that your God is ginormous, and you get to the full mark, and then you're released back to go.
Yeah.
And then you go, 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 go. I love it. That's my picture, my beauty. Is it always perfected? No. Is it perfected in me? No, but that's part of...
Because we're in process.
That's the growth. Yeah, that's
the
like,
process.
we'll never attain where we truly should be and need to be until the end, right?
Absolutely.
And then by then, he's like, man, you finish the race.
And one aspect I like about the whole growing context is the idea it's not us working to strive towards something, but it's actually something that's being produced as we grow. As we go, things are being produced. Things come as a natural progression of our alignment with Jesus, and that aspect. I think that's super cool. It is super cool, absolutely. One of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about, because I think I'm hearing, and I don't know about you, but being in the community and connecting with people in the community, being part of what's going on in this great city and that kind of stuff, is you begin to hear things, and one of the dominant themes I'm hearing in and out throughout the day and experience throughout the week is the whole aspect of purpose. Whole aspect of purpose and passion. A lot of times, especially in moments like this, people are feeling lost. You can't do this, you can't do that, that's restricted, that's not restricted, this is open, that's closed, and there is a vast difference of opinions of what is essential and what isn't. And we can discuss this till the cows come home, because we all have opinions, we all have feelings of what's valuable and what isn't valuable. And so I get it. The government's probably articulating and throwing a lot of things around, because they know the economy's hit and stuff like that. But in the meantime, people are struggling with the fact that, especially if your life isn't what you do and you can't do that, that affects emotionally and affects the sense of purpose. And I don't know why this is it's going to be. And I hear a lot of times the word the new normal. I don't like that, because this is not the new normal. This is we're adapting right now and working through. And yes, our things are going to be different after this whole thing settles and the dust stops flying all over the place. Sure, there's going to be some differences, but to say this is the new normal, I don't think is fair and a wrong perception. And so I don't want to go down that way, but purpose is something that people struggle with. So what do? I don't know what I can do anymore. And have you run into that? Is that something that you've seen as well? Or
it's almost like you throw up your arms, right? Like, what's the point of anything? I agree. I don't like new normal, because I always ask the question, what is normal?
Yeah.
Anyone who knows me, and those who are watching that do know me, they'll go, that dude's not normal.
Yeah, I know.
Some people think I'm nuts.
Yeah.
And I am. But
I relate to that. That's why we get along, I think, because we cut our own path.
What is normal? And when you start to think this is going to be our new normal, then you get kind of lethargic.
Yeah.
And you start going, well, then what's the purpose of this? Why did I spend my life doing that then, if that's getting told no more?
Yeah.
Like, you start to get in that spiral effect.
Yes, absolutely.
And stop and say, what is normal? So this can't be a new normal if I don't know what normal is.
Yeah, that's right.
And to me, I don't know what normal is, because as soon as I think it's normal, somebody says that's not normal.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing. And so, passion starts, like hockey, prime example, hockey. Passion. There's people that are passionate about. My son,
absolutely
passionate about it. Has his passion faded? No. Was he upset that hockey was shut down on the TV in his own life? He was upset, but he didn't lose the passion for it, because a kid is so awesome, because their perspective is almost more aligned with Jesus's perspective than an adult, because we like to throw in our own 2 cents.
That's right, we do. Yeah.
But I asked him, what are you passionate about? Oh, Lego. Everything under the sun. Hockey. He still says hockey. Bikes. Riding bike. Minecraft. I'm still trying to figure out what that is. Minecraft. But his passion's still there, even though the world is saying there's a new normal and there's things different. Now, it's different because his livelihood hasn't changed. But we can take bits and pieces from a child. Like, he's frustrated over, school. He has no passion for school right now, because it's not the same. Why? Because what he found exciting about school was friends and his teachers. You take that away, the schoolwork's the same. It's just different.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And if I tell him this is the new normal, he's going to go, no, this is just what I'm doing right now. But the passion was gone. And so how do you get that back? And that's the question, I think, I can't answer it for him.
Yeah, that's right.
And we can't answer for each other, but we can still remember the purpose and our purpose. And so
I have to be reminded many times, because I can be honest, I can get discouraged, I can get frustrated, I can get to the point, okay, I've had enough, and I can begin that spiral effect too, with negativity, and it's like, this is going wrong, that's wrong, this can't do this, can't do that, they get that, why can't we? And you get that spiral effect, and I think where passion gets lost and where purpose starts to dwindle is we focus more on the things we can't control than the things we can control. Yeah. Because there's always things we can control. It's getting back to this whole thing when this corona fiasco all started. the issues that surrounded it, and all of a sudden businesses had to shut down, all these different things, it's easy to lose grip, and it's easy to all of a sudden go, what in the world is going on? And it's easy to get into that spiral effect that you begin to lose your passion for what really interests you, with the things that really drove you, the things that got you up in the morning, the things that you wanted to achieve and accomplish, because your life was so filled with the negative aspect of stuff, and all you seen was restrictions. It's like the other day, I got up in the morning, a Sunday morning, before we came to, my wife and I did table talk, get up in the morning and I said, look at the wind. My wife says, look at the sunshine. And it's like,
dang. Perspective.
yeah. In the midst of gale-force winds, I always call it, and I exaggerate. I said, it's
hurricane winds. I don't care what you say.
Million mile an hour winds today again,
is terrible.
And that aspect of it. But yet, in the midst of that, I get so consumed by the things I can't control that I miss the things that I can value, and it's focusing on those things that value, that give us purpose, that give us passion. And it's sad when I allow things I can't control to rob me of that, and so sometimes I have to get zeroed back in.
Yeah,
I got to find my, what do they call it in the Mideast world? Find my chi or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Find that place of, okay, now I'm back to balance, if I can use that term.
Yeah.
And now I see the brightness of things. I see the sun rather than the wind. I still get to connect with people when I go to, get a coffee from Tim Hortons, or I go to Canadian Tire.
Yeah.
That aspect isn't lost. And so we start focusing on those things. And even as a pastor, sometimes when our life, I don't know if you feel this way too, but when your life has become about Sunday morning, and all the events and all the things that are come together that Sunday morning, and for some reason that Sunday morning gets the pause hit, or you have to restructure that whole thing, what happens, you can get into that spiral again and go and lose focus rather than seeing the sun. Okay, church isn't closed. We get to do it different.
Yeah.
And when you see things like that, then passion stays alive. I find passion stays alive because you're not seeing the impossibilities, or you're not seeing the obstacles. There's still opportunities, and we just have to do it different. And so passion's something that's birthed in us because maybe we are interested in stuff, or it brings fulfillment to us and things like that. And that's why I think it's so important that our relationship with Jesus is so important, because out of that flows passion, out of that flows purpose. Because when you really get the heart of Jesus, and that's the benefit of following Jesus, is we build a relationship with him and we catch his heart. That doesn't mean, and this is something that I've wrestled with early on growing up in church culture, was he wants me to be like him. So if he says yes, I need to say yes. Or he says no, I need to mimic him. No. He's not talking about mimic him. He's talking about allowing his life to be a living reality in mine.
Yeah.
In my personality, with my desires, my passions, he's going to come through. And that's why we can celebrate difference. Is because Jesus in you is going to pour out your passions and your desires, in me and others. And if we begin to see people that way, we see less disappointment and discouragement and things that we don't like. We see less and less of that, and we start elevating those things, and that's how people are built.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is so exciting about that aspect.
That's the key piece, right?
Yes.
And Jesus said, remain in me, abide in me. He didn't say become me.
No.
Because you can't.
No.
You can't. And we strive, and a lot of us strive for that, and it's a loss, right? He's like, no, abide in me. Let me work in you.
Absolutely.
Why else would he send the Holy Spirit?
Yep.
Why else would he breathe life into you? And he wants to take your individuality and use it for the unity of everyone, right? And so, we're not the same.
No.
I mean, we act the same.
Yeah,
a lot,
we have some
but I'm
personality
way more
simulators.
buff than you.
I know.
And stronger.
Absolutely. That's why I'm in the gym.
Yeah,
I'm competing.
denial is terrible in my life. But prime example, Pastor Danny. I work alongside him as a team. We are two opposite people on two ends of the spectrum. I'm young and handsome. He's old and gray. He's still handsome, but he'll laugh at that. But the thing is, our passions are different.
Yes.
Like this whole world shuts down. He doesn't know how to do the technological side, but that's been a passion of mine, is being techie, being a geek. And so I was able to roll with it and not be too flustered. I mean, it was a lot of work.
Oh yeah, it is.
But he understood, like, that's a passion, but it even made his purpose stronger, because his passion's still people and proclaiming Jesus. And it actually got fueled by the fact that somebody else's passion that's not his, their purpose is driving his.
It frees us. It frees us to pursue and chase after the things that make us, what motivate us and get us going.
And it fuels others.
It does, because when you're in where you belong and where you're passionate about it, the joy, the thrill, the vision, all that stuff is like juice is rolling. Mm-hmm. And when I see that, I don't have to copy you.
No.
Because I'm not a techie guy. I know what I want to see.
Yep.
And I know I want it to look like, but I don't know how to make that happen.
Yep.
There's many times where I've had Mihai, he's our audio-visual guy. He's the one that makes all this stuff happen, and he's not around today. That's why we're just doing one camera. But and it's great, because it's not about that.
Yeah.
But yet when you have that aspect, it elevates it. So then this gets elevated, and that person gets elevated. And that's what I believe the whole concept of the body and relationship does. It's not there to put down, it's there to build up. And sometimes when we're inundated with the media that we have and stuff, it always gives you one side of the piece.
Oh yeah.
And never shows you a balance. It doesn't show you the other side. I mean, getting to what's been going on in our countries with the whole protesting and stuff that's happened with the killing of George Floyd, we're hearing one side constantly. But yet, if you search out, there's other newscasts that are showing another side to it, where police are reaching out and asking for forgiveness, and where the communities are coming together and praying, and just that aspect.
And not everybody's rioting.
No,
it's okay. There's two pictures that get painted on a one-side story. Police are terrible, all of them, and all people of color are rioters.
Yeah.
Those are both false.
Absolutely.
And we're seeing other outlets now showing, like, no, they are coming together. Yeah. Now, is it perfect? No. And it won't be.
But I like
it's showing
like that
totality of
I
what's
like
going
that
on.
It's not perfect, because we're not.
No.
We're people that are growing, learning, and at least we should be people growing, learning, and developing, and that's what makes it so exciting. Is in process.
Yep. In
process, we don't focus on the negative aspects or the things that we think needs to be changed, because that's not what drives us. And when your purpose to pursue your passions and the things that how God wired you, that encourages me to do the same thing. And when I don't have pressure that I have to be like you. Because I know when I've had pressure that pursuing Jesus looks like this, and a package was presented to me, and I said, no way. I tried it first, but I couldn't fit. And so I thought, there's something wrong with me. And I just don't fit in. And as a result of that, it spiraled. But when we truly meet Jesus, he never says that.
Yep.
You are wonderfully and greatly created and made uniquely to you. And I want to bring out you by me being alive in you.
Well, and he's given you a gift to use, and somebody else a different gift to use. And it's not the same hamster wheel we get on and run and finally say, forget it, I'm done. And
many people with a faith background have come to that spot and said, I'm done. And I've seen how other faith communities have jumped on that and said, see, it's just, there wasn't deep enough. But I don't think at the core they're walking away from Jesus. I think they're walking away with a system that has left them empty, confused, hurt, broken, disappointed.
Yep.
And Jesus promises the exact opposite. He takes hurt, broken, used, disappointed, discouraged people and renew them by breathing his life into them.
Yep, and I think it's removing the boundary lines of, okay, say I grew up Lutheran. Well, that means I need to be a part of a Lutheran church. Now, no, it doesn't mean anything like that. Now, if that's where you want to align with your theology, then yes. But in the grand scheme of it, it's not this church is better than this one, and that's where outs people who have never grown up in church, or they look at it and go, okay, what structure will I fit in? It's not about structure.
No,
it's about family. Every family I have ever met, and mine included, is dysfunctional at a point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not all families get along, but the love is there.
Yeah.
And that's what Jesus, I think, is trying to get to us, is like, you're not going to get along all the time. You're not going to see eye to eye all the time. You're going to have differences because you're individuals, but that doesn't negate the unity that I bring to the table.
Yes.
And so
I
it's
agree.
getting, like, that's why I like doing this. Is we don't agree on everything, and that's okay, because we agree on Jesus Christ.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lord, Savior, Son of God.
He's our foundation.
He's the rock, the cornerstone.
Yep.
And so that's where we need to get back to. And so I had a professor, he said, you go as far as your theology allows, that your convictions. So I go with convictions, as your convictions allow. Now, you can get a really long ways with somebody and not have issues.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we need to start camping, and like, we're two different churches, but we're not two different churches. We're two different areas with some differences, but we're the same family.
Absolutely.
And so, you know what? If somebody's like, well, I need to go get some gas, but I only have enough to get here. And all of a sudden they start, well, Sunday I'm going to come here. I'm not going to go, you went to that church and not this church. My church.
That's right,
It's not my church.
Yeah.
I'm a part of a body that's huge, a big body, and Jesus is the head. So if he's the head of your body, my body, it's this one body. It's not, he's the head of two different churches or three different or four different, five. He's the head of all. And so we need to get back to that. And like I use the apple tree example. Look at an apple tree. Not every apple looks the same.
No, it doesn't.
Not every apple tree
tastes the same even.
Yeah, some of them.
Most of them I think are good, but the odd one I won't
some
eat.
have wormholes, you know.
Yeah, no, I'll pass on those ones. But
or they've been dropped and bruised.
Yeah.
But if you look at an apple tree, every apple tree is different. So I equate two different apple trees, two different church bodies in a community, but they still have apples.
Yeah.
And what do apples do? They make more apples and more apples and more apples, not more just apple trees.
Right.
That's part of it. But that's how the church works. That's how God envisioned, and Jesus was proclaiming, was like, hey, it's not about growth in number. It's about growth in apples. It's about growth in each other, growth, and I will add more.
Yeah.
Like, you plant the seed and water it, but you don't make that seed grow.
No.
God does. And so it's the same with a church. You proclaim and you be a family, and in a bigger family, like, you can have a big family gathering. Like, there's some people in your family, you're like, oh my gosh, they're going to be at the reunion. I ain't going. But that's not the point, right?
No.
And so he still will make the apples produce, and that's what's healthy for all of us to understand, is it's not about faith church. It's not about Church of God. It's about Christ and his body. And so when we can come together, it's a flourishing thing.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's a beautiful picture. And it starts with slowing down. Like, goes back to slowing down. Yeah. Like the sun and the wind. This morning, yesterday, I was like, holy smokes, my trees are going to fall down because we're in a hurricane. You know, I'm like, good grief, is there a tornado? And I'm sitting there, but then I'm sitting there watching the trees bend. But they didn't break. Some branches broke off, but we have willow trees, and that happens all the time. But I saw a video one time, even a broken branch, you can make a slit in the trunk and slit in the branch, and you can stick it back in. Not all trees, so I can't. Yeah. It's a bad analogy.
I know what you mean.
But it'll graft back in. And I was like, man, it's kind of like a church. You can break and fall off and fall away from God, but you can always get grafted in. Yeah. That's the power of Jesus.
I like the idea in John 15 where, and being a Greek student, you probably would understand that too. What really opened my eyes was the word kairo. translated in some translations as cut off. But really, that's the only time that word has ever been translated in the New Testament, cut off. Every other time it's used, it means to lift up. It means the gardener comes alongside, lifts up the branch, cleans it off, situates it for the best possible outcome. He doesn't cut it off and discard it. It's too valuable to him. And I love that concept, because many times I thought, I'm just getting cut off. And really, no, he comes alongside and he journeys that process together with us.
He may be cutting something off of you.
Yeah, that's good. Oh yeah, there's some stuff that needs to come off.
But it's not just this like clean break where it's like,
yeah,
you know what, you're done. Like,
yeah, that's right.
Like Jonah, he could have easily said, forget it, you're no longer my prophet, you're no longer going to do what I've asked, you're cut off, you're done. No, he pursued him, lifted him, like lifted him up, made him realize what he was doing. He opened his eyes and heart.
Yes.
And even at the end, he still didn't always get it, but God was always there.
That's the thing that really resonates with me, because for years growing up in church culture, I've never seen that way, because I was given, I don't have my glasses here today because I'm not reading anything, but that's often the glasses that I was given. And you will always perceive things by the way you see them. And so when you see that God is always a punishing God, God is a God that's going to come alongside and grab you by the scruff of the neck and straighten you out and give you cancer because he wants you to smarten up, you have that perception when you read through the scriptures, and what you're most aware of, you're going to recognize or you're going to see.
Yep.
And so wearing those glasses, that's what you begin to recognize and see. But when you take them off, get introduced to the real Jesus, and you wear his glasses, you can go back to those same passages that you've seen, the wrath or all this other stuff, and all of a sudden you see it from a different perspective.
Oh yeah.
And it changes your perception. And what it did for me is it changed my view who God was. Because I would see this difference between the Father and the Son. This is a grumpy old man that wants to push you around and demand, while this guy would stand in your defense and know he's one of us, and there was the argument they were always having. But when I realized that Jesus in his very existence was the image of the Father, he was the image of the Father,
and they don't do
in
anything
flesh.
apart from each other.
And it's clear that Jesus said, I do nothing apart from my Father. What my Father does, I do. What I do, the Father does. There was that overlapping unity in purpose, passion, everything. It was intertwined.
Yep.
So then I began to say, if I want to see the real image of the Father, I need to see Jesus. Because when I look at Jesus, I'm going to see the Father. And then when I see the Father, I'm going to see Jesus.
Yeah.
And it changed my perception of how I viewed God, how I viewed Jesus, and valued the Holy Spirit, because they're all in conjunction. They're all working in conjunction with the same heart, the same passion, the same will and purpose and all that kind of stuff. And so I've often asked people, I said, do you see Jesus doing that? Well, no. But he's the express image of the Father. So now turn that around and look at the Father the same way. And it's like, wow.
And that's where I think the dumbest page in the Bible. I mean, you don't have that page on these anymore. But if you have a hard copy Bible and you open it up, the stupidest page that needs to be ripped out, but I can't get myself to actually rip it out because I feel like I'll die. It says New Testament between the Old and New, because growing up you get this, okay, the God of the Old Testament, he's just angry all the time. No, he wasn't angry. He got upset, yes. But I tell love,
people it was passion.
Yeah, because
passion
how
for
many times
truth.
He say through his prophets, this is going to happen. They've turned his heart broke when his people turned from him. But there was never a time where he said, this is going to happen and you're all screwed.
Yeah.
He said, this is going to happen, but I will remain faithful There will be
I
salvation.
will walk you through.
There will be
I'll
a
provide a way.
restoration. So yeah, there was times of hurt. There was times of destruction. They got exiled into another
But you
place.
know what?
For the purpose of.
But we do that to ourselves by the choices we make.
Right. He's like,
and
this
that's
isn't
the
me.
decipher. It's not God.
No.
It's the choices I make. And sometimes the choices I make in life are not necessarily wise ones.
Right.
With the choices come consequences. It's not God is saying, okay, because you made this choice, I'm going to punish you. But no, those choices itself bring a set of consequences to them. Not God bringing those consequences. It's the choices that I make. And when we see him as a redeemer, oh man, I screwed up. I made these choices. Now I'm living with some of the consequences. He then comes alongside and helps us navigate through those, building us. That's what blows me away. He builds us in the meantime.
Yeah. Well, and it's a loving father, right?
Absolutely.
You look at, so my son's say he's riding his bike and he's not going to look across the street. And I'm like, make sure you look both ways before you cross the street. And he's not looking both ways, and I've noticed. So finally I sneak down to the end of the street because I know he's not listening. And there's a truck coming. A consequence of not looking is that truck's going to smoke him. Now, what do I do as a loving father? I run out there. This never happened, so I'm not a bad parent. Okay. But this is an illustration. So say he's going across the street and this car's coming. What am I going to do? I'm going to run and I'm going to clothesline him into the curb to save his life.
Yeah.
Is he going to end up with some scar maybe?
Scrapes?
Because he got cut?
But who's going to tend to him?
Is he going to break his arm maybe because of that?
And you're not running angry. You don't listen to me.
I'm running out of love.
Tackle it. You're running out of urgency because of the circumstances, and then you walk them through the after effects.
Yeah. So there's the consequence, and there might be a punishment because I told you, but it's not I told you. It's like, hey, I told you this, but that's okay. We're moving on.
I don't. The reason why I don't like the word punishment is because it brings me back in an image. I love correcting or restructuring or I don't know, something like that, because that's what it is.
Yep.
It's your okay. Now this is an educational thing. Let's walk this through. This is why. And it's like then revelation comes. And with revelation comes transformation. And I love the transformation aspect. Sometimes it takes me a while to keep learning. It's like, oh man, I'm here again. I'm in the ditch. Oh my goodness. I thought I learned this already and haven't. And you know what? God's not like, this is the 16th time I've done that before. You know what? You're on your own, buddy. You got to figure it out. He's there 17, 18, 19, 20 times because he's passionate about us. He's passionate about what we're about. And he's passionate to see his truth come alive in us. So I like the word long suffering, the New Testament. Long suffering, suffers long. In other words, he will do what it takes to keep being there, walking us through. And that in turn gives us an opportunity to be long suffering with others that we are like, come on.
Yep.
I'm going to be there. I'm going to walk you through. I don't know if anybody, correct me if I'm wrong, because you've experienced this too. I don't know of anyone that really sees the real Jesus and walks away.
No.
I don't know of anyone to see the real. I'm talking skewed from religion, skewed from experience. I mean, when Jesus shows up, I have not yet to see one person says, that's not true.
Yeah.
Because when they see the real Jesus, it brings a revelation, a transformation. It's unskewed, unfiltered. The unfiltered Jesus.
Yeah, it's getting beyond the historical Jesus, the name of Jesus. Like everybody, I know Jesus. You can't tell me I don't believe in Jesus. Well, yeah, you can believe he exists, but when you know who he is, and
his job is to reveal himself.
Yeah, he's the one that reveals. The Holy Spirit reveals, and when he does, and you see him, it's one thing to know Jesus.
Yes.
It's another.
To have him alive.
Know him.
And now we can get back in the Greek and talk about knowing, because there's a whole different aspect.
Whole
different aspects of that kind of stuff.
Like my kids know me.
Yeah.
People in our congregation know me.
I know you.
You know me. You're getting to know me.
Yeah.
But
that's what a relationship does, right?
Brittany, my wife, knows me.
Yeah.
sometimes I wish she didn't, because it's not always pretty. You could ask her today, and she'd probably be like, he shouldn't be talking to anybody today about Jesus. But that's because I am still growing, because I'm not perfect. I'm not Jesus, but he is in me.
Yes.
And I can go, you know what? What I do sometimes is not right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hurtful. And it can be done to anybody.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's your family.
Yeah.
And in the moment you're like, there's no recovery. But then Jesus, hand down in the water, pulling you back up and says,
Cairo.
I am the recovery. And then you go, oh, abide.
Yes.
Along, sit with. And
Be
so
at
you
home.
stop, and it goes back to stopping, and you go, the clouds are dissipating today.
One of the
sun
things,
is out.
One of the things about stopping, the misconception often we have of stopping, maybe not everybody's like that, I'm just weird. But one of the perceptions of stopping is done something wrong. I have to admit failure. If I stop, that tells me all of a sudden all eyes are going to be on me. That's not true.
No.
Stopping is getting your balance again, or getting better yet, perspective. That's what it is. It's getting perspective.
Yeah.
We don't stop enough. I think the scripture even talks about be still and know that I'm God. He's talking about that stopping point, that perception point.
That. It's not. The pressure's gone.
Oh,
the pressure is gone.
It's like when I woke up yesterday. Today's Monday, right?
I don't know.
Monday. I think it's Monday.
I didn't preach yesterday, so I have no idea what day it is.
Yeah, our calendars. I preached. Yeah, it must be Sunday. 2 days ago I preached.
I do know it's June 1st because my daughter asked.
Okay.
I looked it up.
And so the idea of I forgot what we can talk about. I thought it was funny that we mentioned that. I lost my train of thought.
I
Whatever.
do that a lot.
That tells you maybe we need to wrap up. I don't know.
Stopping.
But yeah, stopping. It's at that point where all of a sudden when we stop and we see perspective. It's like, now I remember what I was going to say.
Oh, good.
It was like yesterday. I got up in the morning. It was probably 7:30 or 10 after 7. Got up. And the first thing I looked in the window and I said, holy mackerel, look at the wind. Because I could see the trees. They were just a-waving.
Oh, yeah.
And my wife says, holy mackerel, look at the sun. There was a stopping point.
He stopped.
There was a stopping point. And in that stopping point, I was gaining perspective. That's right. I see the wind. She sees the sun.
And then what did you do? You checked out the sun.
Yeah. Then I said, yeah, it is bright as can be.
Yeah.
There's not a cloud in sight. That stopping point. And sometimes we're forced to stop.
Yeah.
Because circumstances have deemed it, we had to stop. You're in a traffic accident, you can't keep going. You got to stop.
Yeah.
You fail an exam at school, you got to stop. You got to sift through why and redoing it. It's like homework assignments that I'm doing on this course. It's like I went to you the other day and I says, I know what the answer is because the textbook gives me the answer, but I don't know how they got to it because this is how I see it.
Yep.
This is how I translate it because how did they get to that point? And then I had to stop. You looked at it, and then you brought clarity. It's like, okay, oh yeah, I knew that. I can't believe I missed it. And all it is for me is sometimes it's one little iota, underneath a letter, that changes the dynamics of it. And when you're going too fast, you miss those little tick marks.
Yep.
You miss those little tick marks. What tell you what place that word is in a sentence when you put it in a And if we go too quick and we don't stop, we miss those points. Mm-hmm. And to learn to understand stopping is not negative. It's to get your bearings. It's to get perspective. And so stopping is a good thing. Stopping is a good thing.
And it puts it into the totality of all of this is with even Greek now. You can miss so much.
Absolutely.
Even in the English text, which is just as good, you can miss something because you go too fast. You're not stopping and going, what is he saying?
Yeah.
And so you take that into today. How many of us as churches we're just going, and
check
finally
marks,
we're missing
check
these
marks,
iotas.
Check marks.
We're missing
Check marks.
the iotas, and now we've had to stop. we're not stopping church, but we've had to
I
stop.
I did that.
Slow down.
I did that last week. I was there was 22 statements I had to translate. 22 statements, and I thought it was going good. And then, of course, you submit your assignments and you realize, oops. And I thought, that can't be right. So you go back to the question. And you read the question. It's like, no, I'm right. I'm right.
Yep.
And then you stop. And you relook at the sentence again, and you missed 2 euros. Two.
Yep.
That changes the structure of the sentence. And it's like, oh my goodness, I got to pay more attention to the sentence so I can translate it correctly. And that's a life lesson. It's like, stop.
Yep.
Take a look.
It's okay to stop.
Yes.
Actually, I would say this. It's necessary and essential to stop.
Yes, it is.
And so, like today, we can get focused on the negatives. We can lose passion. We can lose purpose but we will always do that until we stop.
Yes.
And so, I don't like the decision made for June 8th on what churches can or cannot do.
Right.
But I still have to stop.
Yes.
Okay, what does that
Because
mean?
we can run down, oh, that's not fair, this and this, and you can gather a group of people that feel the same way, and they start chanting the same stuff, and then you're convinced it's worth the fight. But when you stop, okay, here's a prime example. This is when it first started. This Corona thing just started, and we closed down the church building per se, and could meet publicly. And it went on for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then someone had the idea that, you know what, why don't we just meet in the parking lot? And then some stipulations came down of what that looks like. And somebody from our church caught it, and this is how they respond to it. Hey, we can meet in the parking lot, but there's a few protocols I have to keep in mind in order to do that.
Yeah.
It totally... I had a different perspective. They can't even this and now this, and we want to do this, and they're still...
Yep.
And yet the other person said, hey, we can meet in the parking lot. These are just some of the things that we have to abide by. So they seen the opportunity where I seen there was yet another obstacle.
Yep.
But when I stopped afterward, I thought, I love that perspective because I was going down this trail, but that person was on this trail. And it's like, that's right. It is open for business. We can have people in our parking lot.
Yep.
These are the things we're going to watch for.
It just looks different.
It just looks different.
And
the more I see life like that, I think the more I can appreciate my journey.
Yep. And I think if we all just stopped, we'll get the purpose back.
Yes.
You'll get the passion back. Because even in the midst
of because
trials,
it's this, and we lose it, and then we...
Yep.
But when you stop, okay. Sometimes I forget why I'm here. I get frustrated by circumstances, situation, people, whatever, right? I mean, let's be real. Stop. Okay.
Yep. It's just like, I can't go meet people for coffee. Like I get juiced up over that, right? Yeah. Well, let's stop, and what else can we do now? Or going church online. I'm like, I don't want to do it. Yeah. It's annoying, and I don't get to see anybody. They can see me, so I just have to be goofy because that's just who I am. But when I stopped and go, but you know what? There's purpose still in it.
Yes.
So if we stop and go, what is the purpose? So like with churches, there's regulations. Okay, it's not going to be what I want. It's not going to be what I want. But you know what? God says, shut up. I'm going to still work in the midst of this.
Yes, that's right, he is.
And I'm still going to work in the midst of you.
Yes.
And her and him and all of you.
Yes.
Because you're all individuals who have gifts that I've given that aren't the same, and you're going to use it together in a hard situation where you're told, here's an obstacle, but he's like, I can work through the obstacle, and I'm going to use collectively to do it.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think is key to anybody. We just need to stop and go, is my perspective off? Because when we figure out where our perspective is, then everything else just lines up.
It's been neat how this has taken a life of its own as we just been communicating and talking. I've learned There's some things that just reoccurred in my own mind. Fresh stop. When I don't stop, I get into trouble.
Yep.
When I don't stop, I get off, and I go a distance on the off. And then, yes, he comes along to realign me and doesn't punish me for it, but he comes along and say, hey, you know what? Nick, come over here. But if I stop, it saves me from a lot of headache. If I learn to stop, when anxiety starts building and frustration starts building because of something I can't control or something I did that I want to change, if I stop, I can get realigned again. It's the stopping where that invites the Holy Spirit in to level the playing field so we can make the right choice and right things.
Yeah, we just need to stop.
Awesome. Awesome. This has been great. I'm looking forward to coming to your house.
Yeah.
And
the Oikos.
I can be your Oikos, that's right. Not Holmes, house.
House.
Singular, nominative,
Yep.
and it is a subject of the sentence.
Exactly. See, he's got it. He's already a Greek scholar, I tell you what.
That's right. I got it made. I'm going to stop right now where I'm at, and I'm just going to take it. No, that's good. Great having my great friend, and looking forward to coming to your house and sitting down and chatting with you too. Just whatever comes. It's going to be good. Thanks for taking the time to join us. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
See ya.